So with our universities looking like this, while I loved education, my whole family ifundile except for me, what the heck, no kebadile. It's just that akunamuntu balile on paper. I've told you what happened to my degree. I come from an academic family. Education. Mara now today, I still respect education. Everybody gotta love knowledge. It's power. Even God says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. What are you being taught? The difference here is in what is the knowledge? What is the information coming into your brain? What are you learning? It's not just anything that can, unless it's maths. 8 times A is A squared. Unless it's objective science. Yeah, I saw it. Unless it is objective science. Yeah, I saw it. Curriculum. There's no two ways about mathematical theories. Except some people might argue that there are two ways. With all these other dimensions being discovered by scientists. With all these experiments at CERN, whatever. Like theoretical, within the field of theoretical physics, maybe there might be gray areas. Largely established mathematical concepts that you can go and study and it'll still stay the same. Like I said, humanities, even law. I can show. Because the law is subject to change, and you will remember systematic oppression, apartheid was a law. And there were students out just studying LLB at university, learning Group Areas Act as something that they are going to effect as lawyers. So, hahona any field other than objective sciences that can be trusted anymore. And that for me has made higher learning institutions lackluster. Even though I used to love education, and I still do. It's that the places where people are studying are now in error. And Charlie Kirk said the same thing. And they used to like teasing him and dissing him for not having a college degree. In America, they call it a college degree. In South Africa, they would call it a university education. Mamela, that man, he was able to influence the president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. He was such an influential man. And if at all he was known in himself, as influential and as really compelling as he was, he would not have even won that many sponsors and that many donations for his organization that is Turning Point USA. He was a man that if at all he didn't tell you, you wouldn't know he had no college degree. You wouldn't know. He was able to out here slay more students abafundile kodwa that just merely glided through school, just skating past got 50%. He was able to slay them in debates any day because una researcher in his own capacity, abala in his own capacity, even though azangabala. Mara, there are some people out there that thoroughly mocked him and teased him for being an ignoramus because he had no college degree. For not being educated. Knowledge. Because and I'm not against varsities. I'm still for them. It's just that right now, rottenness, there is a rot in there. There is a gangrene metastasizing. And absent of it being stopped dead in its tracks and reverting back to good old-fashioned learning, it's going to indoctrinate youth until they despise. Listen, these kids get to university and they deconstruct Christianity. It is only in the 21st century where high school students go to varsity and come out pagan. All other generations in history, they went through high school and throughout university were maintained as God-fearing. If at all, they were raised in Christian households. Bachata in a Christian household, bakurisa abantwana babo in Christianity. It is only in the 21st century where you are seeing abantwana coming from God-fearing homes, entering varsity and becoming little spiritual whores that also every so often turn up. Okay. By a change. Listen, it happened even to Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson came from a family that was, yes, he was not in a God-fearing home. They were apparently Mormon or whatever. But there was some kind of conservative doctrine being taught him as a kid. Why he got converted into a killer. Something's happening. Listen, we don't know what it is, but it's going down. And ain't nobody feeling it, right? Yeah, whatever, but it's happening. Yeah, it's and this here, South Africa, of yours, you have been evident, like I said, government has tarnished pass marks. In universities, they have infiltrated studies. They are teaching people witchcraft. They are indoctrinating abantwana. Haba lukise infrastructure. Ba ignora poverty abatho abantsho that are the biggest, most afflicted demographic, were the biggest, most afflicted demographic under apartheid, given that this is a black country and the majority of people are black and will always be black. And our black government does not have the backs of blacks. Yeah, like I said, poverty is more scathing today than it was back then. And back then, we were systematically oppressed. There is wealth in the black population now today, more than there ever was in the days of apartheid. But listen, it's concentrated among a small batch of elite blacks that are hoarding the nation's wealth, and they are in power. Hence, South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. Slums right next to Lani upmarket neighborhoods is this here weird country. And that all happened after apartheid. Abantu abamnyama abena kamva bese kuzo accused by abanye abantu abamnyama of our suffering on amalungu that don't even make up the majority of the country. However, the majority of the wealth is still in the hands of white people. The only reason, however, Mamela, wealth can be created. Wealth is not finite and circulated among people. And if at all certain people, it's not like osmosis, okay? Wealth is not like osmosis. Wealth is more like the supply of God. Wealth is not transferred from one cell to the other because here there is a concentrate of salt, whereas here there is a concentrate of water. And so all the water moves over to the salt, and that's how wealth is transferred. No, wealth can be made. Wealth can be created, not so much by the printing of money, because wealth is not really truly in printed bills. That is a note, that is a banking system created by man. Wealth is in gold, wealth is in silver, wealth is in minerals, wealth is in resources, and wealth can therefore be made. It can be built. Wealth can be built on. You don't have to steal it from anybody else. You can make it afresh. Wealth can be made from your own bright idea. Wealth can be monetized from a genius idea. And then on that day, look at you, have gold bars in your brain. Wealth can be mined from the ground. Wealth can be tilled on the ground, grown on trees, and harvested. Wealth can be built. So, in there is wealth concentrated in a small elite few. And then they like to complain by but most of South Africa's wealth is still concentrated among the white demographic. Ha also be redistribution. But my thing is, because wealth can be made. So ba etsa tšhelete e nngwe e extra. Over and above, ba etsa tšhelete e extra over and above tšhelete ene ba yentse already ka apartheid. Ba agile wealth, ba godisitse more vineyards, ba godisitse diperekisi tse ding, ba agile di business tse ding tse rekisitseng diperekisi tse ding tse rekisitseng marotho a mang. Ebe Where's more money? So most of South Africa's wealth is still in the hands of white people. And Uguti, you are similar to what was done to the Jews to substantiate or justify the Holocaust. Look at Jewish businesses, they're so successful. And look at the most powerful Jews in the world. Look at the Rothschilds, look at that. So that's why we must Holocaust them. That's the reason why the farmers. In yourselves, you refuse to build wealth in the black community as those who can empower blacks to be stronger. First of all, le rinketse motlakase. So ana re tlo nne re rekisa di mayo neng. A ke go qala ka go rekisa pele di mayo ko jarateng. Ha o etsa business nka re etsa sense ebe di mayo tsa gago jwanong o decide go lo expand. O lo di rekisa jwanong ko sephaseng so tlo o se bulang off-site from ko jarateng, because jarata how is not big enough. When then the mayo tsa gago now they really super sell. O bo decide o lo stala a little bit o lo rekisa over and above the mayo, the ice cream, and then my kipi. And then the cold drink lady this. Next one, let's pass again as a signan. Pass has a thrive. Also, not the supermarket, OC. That's building wealth. But when are you ever gonna succeed? The mayo zahaho di melt because there's no electricity. When? Oh, now, auto du lanzo let's fella go charating. Yako how? Or rekisa di mayo. Letting some of them you have to throw out because kimo di meltile. Ebe di baldi khalas kamohar. Then make them inedible later on. Lona ntse le lahla di ice cream, lona le ntse le lahla marotho a bolang, lona le ntse etc. You get my point. Wealth is built. So if you're gonna blame Mahoa because they're still wealthy, elona ba agile mo wealth nya bona, ke eng elona batho ba bantsho ele yentseng that you started and then it grew and grew and grew until it became a supermarket chain. Yeah, Mara, you can't exactly get to the point now of having a supermarket chain when you go and you grab your baddest and your most gifted geniuses in the country and you disenfranchise them because, oh, listen, you are competing with each other, you're butting hits. And so I'm a business, how much I can something. You bewitch each other, ni flop, man kata lapho bese ni blame amalungu. Nithi imali is still in their hands. Wealth can be made. It is not recycled like osmosis. Wealth is made. You don't have to take it from another place in order for you to have it. You don't have to take another man's land in order for you to get land. You can go and grab a field. A land that everybody has abandoned because technology greenhouse that is going to cause a tree to grow where nobody else trusted that would happen. And look at you create wealth. Innovation. God has given all of us creative power in himself. He was like, let there be. wa creator, and we are made in his image. Therefore, in ourselves, we are creators. We are able to innovate. We have ideas. They are pop out of our heads. And these ideas, if we go to work and get our hands dirty, zingaba monetized. Ningayenza imali ezibonakalayo. Black folk, the reason you're not thriving is because you're into thwarting each other and funa ukubonana ni thrive, ni succeed. And then when white people bahola banse bathola pele ba grow wealth yabona. Belere bona mahwasensane ali the wealthiest in the country, and then you pick up the one with them. And you try to throw them out on a limb, laba persecutor, laba harasa, laba tlaonka di farms abona kankane, listen, you wreak havoc. And now today born, South Africa is what do you call this? They think South Africa is racist, and indeed, to a certain extent, Black South Africa is racist. We've got the most race-based laws in the world, and BEE was okay in the beginning because there was need for some kind of retributive process that would ascertain that there is fair employment in corporates, because Mahoa were used to hiring in a certain way, and they needed something to jolt them, boost them, to make the right decisions. After a certain time, it was supposed to do its work, and then you ought have recalibrated these skills to make for fair employment practices now. That basically BEE has done its work. Look, we've succeeded. Unemployment has gone down by this much, and these are the many executives that are Black. These are the many senior management, upper middle management, and these are the people that run businesses. These are the small to medium enterprises that we helped start, etc. Mina, I am a Black woman that in her youth was empowered by employment equity. But I was also a young woman who in the prime of her career, as she was thriving, growing, gunning towards ending up one of the most successful Black women in the country. I was uprooted from employment by the very BEE advocates that pushed my agenda along, ripped me out of a career because I became what they called I was whistleblowing ethical misconduct. So basically unethical behavior in the business. And that's why I lost a job. So honest people are losing jobs. And when we have got absolutely damning evidence that inculpates those who are destroying our futures, it all gets swept under the carpet in spite of how damning it is to them. The evidence is of little significance. It does not matter. We are dinawa. Truth, I'm facts. I are dinawa. And that's what happened with me. And it indeed is exactly what is happening right now. Case in Professor Anele Mgati Hammond. My man, listen, you are disenfranchising Black people, and if they don't have power to keep themselves strong, aloft, and fight, have a real fighting chance, they just disappear. They slip through the cracks. You did that to Black people. Herein lies a Black woman that was building wealth, and you ripped her from that trajectory. And now you're complaining about the unemployment rate of Black people in this country especially, and you are also lamenting about the income disparity, the gap, especially between Blacks and whites, Blacks and non-Blacks. Nyakala. Except where it is that Black folks started to build wealth, you stopped it dead in its tracks. Nina, they were supposed to take care of us. You are so corrupt. Then halekone will thusa batho ba bantsho ba gole. Go di gasing, le busy le abruta di roboto le kenya di roundabout. Gore le tlo slow down traffic even more. Ya go old botch for what? And for no faka ma robot because you don't want to keep on maintaining. You are saving money. You are building roads that have got potholes. However, the highway, they have potholes. They don't have them. Showing that the same raw materials you used to build the highway, you could have used them to build the inroads, but you're busy pocketing funds. You are lining your own pockets. They are lining their own pockets. And those who are at the receiving end of all of this most heinous, treacherous disenfranchisement and impoverishment are the Black population. Because already we came out really poor. We were the ones that were to most benefit from reforms after apartheid. But if at all you continue to basically maintain the poverty of the poverty-stricken Gaze, where you going to build wealth ex nihilo like your God from nothing? How are you going to build wealth when you are not given a boost? And Emanjala boost lawa. Nah, what we could have done without them insofar as you just gave us electricity. But you didn't. You took away things that could make Black people healthy. You kept Black people as domestic workers. Look at today. You have kept Black people cleaning streets. You have kept Black people in entry-level employment. You have made it impossible for Black entrepreneurs to thrive. And so they are maintained in working the biggest demographic of people in low-income jobs are Blacks in this country. Not even Makalate or Mahoa. Blacks. And the Black government doing this to us is precisely the reason why we'll break out of the mold of folding shirts at Woolies. We can't break out of the mold of We can't break out of that mold. Because of what's not only lenza le sabotage na ha kana le lawyer na batho ba bantsho, mara ha the government is busy keep the child go a certain small minority. And you dare be a whistleblower, you can either get a bullet in your head or uthwotwe nje fela to a point where get a platform onyama America, a platform of Americans. You will thoroughly prevent a black person in your country from having a career. I left this here country trying to find any opportunities in it because you said no thank you and you spat on my cheeks. I was like, fine, I'll make money in America. I'm smart enough because I can build wealth. I know what I've got in me. And you functioned as barriers to entry even on an international platform simply because they went and they invested in your country and put YouTube here and created employment opportunities here. Wahlala. Migwanti lidi outi tse sebetsang le yona tse dutseng ko YouTube di a reka ga ba o try anyway ka nako teng ke thotse dream ke thotse vision ke thotse prophecy ko modimo o ntweditse hore nna one day ke tloba le 1 million subscribers over. I'm gonna get a gold plaque. I gold plaque imali indlu yonke bhatelwe le. I gold plaque is a person that's very comfortable. Get podcast that RJ is giving Joe Rogan a run for his money. No. But umuntu okhuluma izinto ezinjena, you are not letting me speak. Speaking of Joe Rogan, of which his is the most popular, most famous podcast in this world. At all. Number 2 is some other guy. Number 3, number 4. Ronaldinho top podcast mo lefatsheng. Joe Rogan, some of the things that buang le tlhapa e mo le molomo wa hae. O tla ipotsa gore naro why a mametso hakana. Motho o tlo mamelwa ha a proliferatwa a liwane to reach mammoth audiences as a ahlonipwe, even though a lot of times ukhuluma inyongo. uJoe Rogan wakhona but khuluma inyongo every so often. The other day, flat out on his podcast, thoroughly shared that he thinks that Netanyahu is dead. When a mammoth podcaster of that nature, without having facts, can I just speak about how it is that Netanyahu is potentially dead and everything Israel God Netanyahu is AI and on the podcast whereas men like who is this man that I like, the Mormon, he's a man that I follow on YouTube. He did a video because he was shocked out of his mind. Thanks to men like Joe Rogan, listen, the top most listened to podcast in this world. I'm trying to go inside my YouTube to see if I can't find this man. I know him, but every so often names just elude me. He's also an American, a Mormon, come on, you know him. He's also big, but he's not so big so as to pretty much not even close to compare with Joe Rogan. And he, in a very confused, like facial expression, that very confused facial expression. I'm not gonna find it here. If my PC was in front of me, I would find it. Unless of course I just scroll. Listen, I'm not gonna find it. Like, man, I know him. I wish I could just find. I don't even know where else to look. But anyway, he is an American podcaster as well. He's Mormon. I mean, just by mere virtue of saying Mormon, you would know who I'm talking about. He's also got quite a big channel, but it's not quite Joe Rogan. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the other day he rocked up and did a video on the very thing where it is that it was spoken that Netanyahu is now dead or potentially. And this man went to a lunch, not a lunch, a dinner or something, with his wife, and go lunching in. It was thoroughly just passed around that, do you think that Netanyahu is dead? And you know, it made him crease his forehead, and because these people that were so respectable in his eyes were commenting in this fashion, it made him just sink into himself and deeply consider if at all such knowledgeable, respectable men and women with whom I am at a collegial level can thoroughly think that Netanyahu is potentially dead. What is going on? And so he decided to then rock up and do a video. He decided to rock up and do a video essentially saying Netanyahu can't possibly be dead. He said Netanyahu can't possibly be dead, and his reasoning around why he can't possibly be dead is similar to the reasoning that I once listened to after listening again to some other person saying that the earth is flat because the Bible evidently says the earth is flat. And I was like, what the heck? Why are Christians believing that the earth is flat? So I went on YouTube to retrain myself to think straight that the earth is not flat, it's a sphere. And I entered into this one channel where this one guy was explaining it not from a Christian vantage point, but from just a rational, reasonable, scientific vantage point, explaining why the earth cannot possibly be flat. And he used mathematics, measurements, science, how the earth rotates around the x-axis to basically prove, not x-axis, but how basically the sun, our relation to the sun and whatnot, is proof that the earth is a sphere. It cannot possibly be flat for reasons that I came to conclude are accurate, but I did not want to be thrown, of course, by some Christian claiming that the earth is flat. And among the arguments that this guy was expounding on pertaining the earth's spherical state was that it is absolutely bizarre to imagine that the earth is flat and that everyone is in on it even though there's nothing in it for them. That has ever documented that the earth is flat would have to have all been in on it to deceive the masses. That the earth is flat, even outer space travels and whatnot. And listen, for what? It don't make no kind of sense. It's just bizarre. Something of that nature. This here gentleman, and I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, explained it that way because I was thoroughly disquieted in my spirit when I saw all these videos all over YouTube speaking about how AI, Netanyahu's dead, AI this, he's not alive, his video is evidently AI, including some Christians. And I was like, what the heck, yo? Like, and I finally listened to someone who was essentially a sober mind that I trusted to just speak properly. And he made a basic reasonable argument that everyone in Netanyahu's inner circle would have to be in on it. And then everyone that's not in his inner circle, the government, and they stand to gain more, the enemies of Israel, from Netanyahu turning up truly dead, as opposed to faking his death or his living state. Better off are you? And so announcing his death, because then it would be a victory on the part of like body's life, the Iranian regime. Why would you make it a psyop? Why would you lie? Anyway, whatever, he basically just explained it. From that, I concluded that Netanyahu is alive. But just the fact that there was a shadow of doubt created in me was problematic. But why was the shadow of doubt even created in my mind? I don't watch Joe Rogan's podcast, but it was because of Joe Rogan's podcast that so very many people across the world out here speculated that Netanyahu may very potentially be dead. A man that is #1 in podcasts in the world. It's just sharing trash. And the first time I listened to this was on channel Meira K, this one Jewish lady that is always just speaking out against all things anti-Semitic. And the first place I listened was Meira K's channel. And she was complaining also about Joe Rogan. And then I saw it littered across the internet. And I was like, I'm not going to listen to this. If Netanyahu is gone, just like with Khamenei dying, everybody's going to know. Like there's all these news networks would jump on that. They would why hide it? Why conceal it? Right? But one thing that certainly stuck out for me was that Joe Rogan is #1 podcaster on earth at all. And every so often he speaks smack like this. He's also uncultured in his speech or profane. I don't know how so many earthlings can just take him in their stride. And like I say, he can easily just say, do you think Netanyahu is dead? The Mundona is like a child. Information, even though he's got this mammoth audience, until Wonkumuntu is out doing snippets of whether or not do you think this is true. That's the earth on you right there. It's upside down. And people that have got gargantuan mammoth podcasts are being listened to, and that are being listened to by the whole entire planet. Don't even make sense to have that kind of mammoth podcast. They don't make sense. I want to find this man. It's just an injustice for me to not find his name. I feel ingati, if at all you're gonna give a man a mammoth platform to have such a huge podcast, because of the explanation why Netanyahu can't possibly be dead. He deserves to have a spot that is loftier than that of Joe Rogan's. And yet there are people, there are people that have got profanity on their tongue, that so basically are just insulting to very many people on earth. And these individuals also every so often don't even share facts. They are spreading just vitriol, just doing its rounds on the internet. And they're just left to thrive. That is the world that we're living in. It's upside down. And abantu that makes sense are under-perused, under-gazed at. And that there, thwarting and discombobulation of information, is just killing the brain. It's killing the world. It's putting a mind virus therein. It's putting a mind virus. I don't listen to Joe Rogan, and I largely don't even have an issue with Joe Rogan. The guy needs to find out what he wants to do in life with his spirituality. I don't really have too many issues. The one thing that really kind of riled me up the wrong way was that he proliferated Netanyahu is very potentially dead. And that for me was like, listen, Joe Rogan, I don't generally pick a controversy with you. This time around, what are you doing? We out here sharing prophecy and stuff like that can tigazisa us. We out here speaking these into God. And when you're gonna say the Prime Minister of Israel is dead. Like what? There's not just small news. Anyway, whatever. Okay, largely I'm not picking a controversy with that guy. I'm not too bothered by him. Okay, the thing that is important to understand is that his platform is gargantuan. Though largely, akayenzi sense. I'm just putting out there. Largely, he don't be making no kind of sense. So the world is evidently pushing certain people and not others. And another one, Candace Owens. I don't even know who in the world is busy listening to her. Ingathi nje uyapushwa ngoba bayafuna ukustera up controversy. Lo muntu don't make no kind of sense to be getting heard. Uyahlanya. Kodwa she's got a cult following. And it don't make no kind of sense. Yo, why did he flee from me? Glenn Beck, donkey. It's Glenn Beck. I went into subscriptions and I found him. Glenn Beck. He's the one that shared this, and he is the guy that I say he should be bigger than what do you call Kimang? Joe Rogan. But he's just not. But that's just the world that we're living in. They choose who to punt, who to proliferate. And imagine Magunjalo, it's okay, fine. God will always get his message across anyhow, in spite of what people are trying to say, people trying to do, who people are trying to punt, who people are trying to proliferate. Mara, that are worth the while to listen to the information of coming out of their mouths, out of their research, out of their reasoning, out of their thought, whereas there are others that are here to just out here peddle confusion. And a world that is proliferating the peddling of confusion. What are you going to do with it other than to lean on Christ? You need to lean on the Lord. And in here, South Africa, Mamela, are you dumbing down the country? We don't know what's going on. Mara, abantu aba powerful in this nation, aba khudileng, they have got chunks of money in their pocket. Basebenzisana. First of all, they belong to cults, and basebenzisana, the government, and they have made themselves barriers to entry of anyone that is not in agreement with them. And the most unfortunate thing, as well, is that they feel entitled to women. Herein lies our nation, and I shared this prophecy in one of my other videos, where a whole bunch of men gather, they conglomerate, they congregate, and then they decide, black women cannot be too strong because then batlokophala. I spoke about their issue. In one of my other videos, you're gonna have to go back and listen to them. That is a nation that refuses to let the half of the largest single demographic in the country. They made a decision in a cult that they're gonna thwart the growth of half of the single largest demographic in the country, because they are a threat to how the remaining half of the single largest demographic in the country is gonna look. Black men went to war against a black girl in this nation because they were intimidated upon watching how the black girl was growing after apartheid ended. They were intimidated by the speedy growth of the black woman, the black girl, how quickly they rose in comparison to them, amadota. And then they made a concerted decision to actively thwart the present trajectory in so continuing of the black woman in order that we might be subdued under black men. Namatota, of which following that they then in entertainment trained black women to embrace polygamy, trained black people to embrace their roots enough to go biotagatahuri. And so now there is an epidemic of witchcraft in the black community. These here black people are not mindless drones that get easily trained to tagata nabo. In yourselves, black folk, you are happy to go in your tagata anything and anyone that looks like you. So the entertainment industry only gave you a jolt and a boost. Maraya polygamy yona, it was influenced into us. Lesi tembu, lesi esi snacks, it was influenced by media. And then they said, amakaria etu, guamele, and fela aplome. They don't get too intense, black girl, because black men must always be better. And then it infused an epidemic of ritualists in black men that will then beef themselves up in getting strong through magic. These men who then got inducted into being little witches, these men who then got inducted into being abatagati in order to make imali, given that witchcraft is a most malevolent practice, it induces into the bones of people darkness, it makes them macabre, ghoulish, mean-spirited, murderous, it makes them ill-tempered, violent, it alters essentially ama personality abantu. So what it did was cause gender-based violence in the black community by black men against black women because of amadoda athakathayo bese change. And mabachenja kabuhlungu kanjena ngoba amademoni are coursing through their veins, bayasiclap, and in worst case scenarios bayasibulala. And njengoba basebenzisa imithi to do this thing, they every so often also do satanic rituals to end our lives, human sacrifice rituals. A black government came into pow and did all that. So ha ke re nna ke tsamaya mo South Africa, and ha ke re nna I guess bias ke lemsa batho ba bantsho le ntse le re ba magoa a re le matsa etle like the mats bona corruption ya lona e futsweditsweng ka re ke balloon hore e etsang batho ba sang agreeing le yona, and it is so bold-faced that noma umuntu ane ke re le motho ha ana le bopaki for innocence ba gage or for case ya gage a gona ngwe present abantu benanda. They pride themselves in running people around in circles. Professor Hammond spoke about how it is. Somebody said this saying in the legal profession that justice delayed is justice denied. And then spoke about how it can take a cool 5 years for you to get a trial date. Gungatata 5 years yonke. Gungatata 5 years yonke. What is that? Sorry? Once again, askisi, I'm busy reading. Wabona jwanong? Ke busy ke bala hard. Kungathatha 5 years yonke to get a trial date. And jwanong ha bana o tlo kubua ko mosebetsing ka je. O tlo batla o lontsha batho ba go unfairly dismissing. You have taken up not so much a case against them, go CCMA only, but now it's grown the wings, the fangs. It's a civil motion. And also maybe there are criminal facets. You don't only have CCMA, you also gotta go now. Go high courting. Go criminal court or go whatever court that you must now go to. CCMA will only deal with your labor matters. But you've got to go to a proper magistrate court to deal with criminal cases. If at all there's a criminal motion that you're trying to raise up against the employer yako because they did fraud or whatever. Like with me, there was fraud done. There were so many things. And according to the professor, apparently, allegedly, it can take a cool 5 years for you to get a trial date at, listen, the lowest court in the land. We're not even dealing with appeals right now. Unless, of course, again, one of the statements that she made mention of, unless, of course, expediter trial date ya gago, bring it in ahead. Guys, if at all you can pay people to bring in your trial date, when out have your case heard. We're in now April, I get date ya May, because we're not no patal then justice is locked off, it's closed off to those that don't have money. The 5 years. The professor likely was able to get a trial date to go to a court and actually have her case somewhat heard, because she said in her own content only resources. So maybe now patetso ho tlisa trial date in lo dila ka this thing ka speed nje fela masisha. So jwanong ka bona it's been 11 years going on 12. I never did go to court. Mara nna nka decide hore ke tlo go courting ba ka nkhoza hore ke age to the age of 60 before I will get a trial date. And that there caused me so much disillusionment. I was like, yo, duh, of course I'm leaving the nation. But then I remembered hore the Lord umpontshitse hore le nna tle karabo siza ke le hlongwane go sponsor wa ke di corporate. In case ya me yo thatwa ngama corporate. And so I'm a trial dates where 2032. No, I'm a trial dates where 2049. No, that's not going to be a thing. It's going to be expedited, and it's going to be a whole bunch of South African companies getting on the bandwagon of this here case of mine. Why? Because the Lord has seen it fit to take up because never mind Ayam, but anyone else that wants this here olive branch. Mara, just the fact that all that sikati for umuntu uguyo apizega in the spirit, because righteous indignation is a thing. How okwatile o futa steam. How nanto e go patronizing go phala. Motho o tlo go shela. Aba re askis baby. Nka o etsetsa yo dog. Wait king ko MTN. Yeah, yo I man. I was throwing my toys at the court. Ke ntse ke senda di email ke la. Ka ntho ne ba nketsa yona. And then some of the people in that email would write me privately and say I'm a fan. Yo. Ne ke shelwa dog. Ne ke shelwa. Kana kwa teng I am angry. Kefota mullo, ketswa steam, mamela out of my nostrils, kuphuma umlilo. Ophelele, I'm a dragon at this point. I am breathing fire. At every corner, at every turn, I was inappropriately dealt with by Amadota. And then everyone else treating a silent treatment, chose not to talk to me, but spoke to my mom. Once my mom came on board with the whole story. And then at some point even usiswam. South Africa is doing that to people. And it is your black government, black politicians, black business bosses. Yes, every so often mara it is largely abantu abamnyama. Aba moshela abanye abantu abamnyama. Ikamva. So the one place where I disagree with the professor is here. Well, not one, two. I agree with her on 2 points. The first point is her insistence that white folk are the reason why sizwe ubuhlunganjena ukuthi lekhowa umlungu akathanda umuntu omnyama. Moteng ga ke dumelane le yena. Noma akhona amalungu angenandaba nathi. It's not everyone. And secondly, the thing engwe eke sa disagreeing le yena ke evidently the nuances tsa gagwe that are that evidence hore there is polytheism over there. Polytheism. Ugu basically she believes in a god, basically another force that is going to ultimately award justice. The mindset is right. Godwa. What is wrong is in imagining that you can pray to both my ancestors, no God, and still get justice for something so incredibly monolithic in the country that is rooted in spiritual trash, precisely because of how bizarrely arrogant and bold-faced in being wrong, albeit trusting they're gonna get away with murder, all these monsters are. By ignoring exculpatory evidence that inculpates them, they deliberately go out of their way to ignore talking to people that batsabang stories sabona, business yabona, in favor of others that they can out here manipulate or downplay the seriousness of the situation using instead of Yena, even though she was the person that was in the contract with Standard Bank. Mina EMTN of course had contracted with me, and so too had Investec and Alexander Forbes. And well, Investec never spoke with any of my family. Mara, they disrespected me. They gave me silent treatment until I cried long enough for them to get rid of me finally by giving me what I wanted. Investec, Alexander Forbes, KMF, like I said, at some point Volume Group, I'm a landlord's worm. It's an epidemic in the country. Because they realized ukuthi wena walwana ukotsi utletse ka mollo, and hape o tseba story sa hao. How it's about stories how ba deliberately go out of their way. It's a spirit to ignore you in favor of somebody else, or never availing information kaofela or that is going to help them get away with murder. Because next night the resources keep on matisa around in circles in a court of law, whereas professor unama resources, and they kept her in court for 3 years and sebali busy ba meander. I saw that coming in advance. Ngavele ngadropa the situation, ngiphume kuyo ngathi ngizobuya late at some point ngangala. But God brought it back and was like, wow, and even before everything or sponsor corporate, because as a unique individual, no matter how much money I can make, I will never be able. I'm a corporate angaga. For all this corruption, they will bury me in bureaucracy, in red tape, in paperwork, in court dates as you linger into 2078 forever, unless there is a rally nationally behind me. 40. Professor naye ugcine aze ku social media because ubona ukuthi ahatlo wina. Insofar as she is mom keeping it quiet between herself and Standard Bank, she went public because ubona ukuthi ahatlo wina without being rallied behind by a nation. And after going public, Mamela, she said that she went to news networks. Go various news networks because Standard Bank what do you call this? It committed crimes. Why aguma news networks? They ignored her. But one person honestly responded and said, we cannot bite the hand that feeds us. Because frankly, SABC, ENCA, all these new mainstream media, that you are fighting against, are they paid by Standard Bank? Obviously not. Essentially, it is the deep state of this country involving our government that also involves big business. And amidst big business bosses are Standard Bank. We cannot bite the hand that feeds us. But respond to Yen. Now that she has gone viral on social media and yonke South Africa iyakhala, abantu bavala Standard Bank accounts. Apparently they contacted her on some, do you want to give a statement? She was like, Pumani gimi, I kokotile momi yako nyalo nalang ignore. Lara halito, bite the hand that feeds you. Minage esukarabo sizagele someone. I wrote Radio 702 and I wrote Carte Blanche. What to do? Na zangba responda, nobody came back to me. With professor, yenabari, one person came back and was like, you're not gonna make it. Mara, the rest of the mamzeba, Mina, they just ignored me, period. However, go 702. The Lord gave me a dream. They got it by Bala, and they chose to ignore it. They read the whole thing that I exposed MTN. Our stories are similar. And now that she said, Uguti, one person came back and said, essentially, if at all we took up your cause, it would be like biting the hand that feeds us. That's why there's barely any mention of certain things that are happening, especially in Iran, on South African media. That's why I no longer watch South African news. Because listen, the ANC owns our media, our mainstream. I only listen to independent news sources in this country. Nakona, largely I don't listen to them because I hate to get grieved about what's happening in the ground in SA. It hurts too much. So I don't I eat them in masawa wems. Because I because then I can literally end up losing boroko. I told you I once followed up on Storisa, Cat Mandala, 2 days go fail. The way there's so much corruption, I'm too grieved, I'm too sensitive. So I try not to watch South African news. I try to keep myself as far away from it as possible. I dwell in dream space, I dwell in vision space about what's happening in this country. Mara, the moment I start to see that which I see in my dreams and in my visions in the news, it just verifies it is literally that bad. And so it just makes me unable to sleep. So I just deliberately go out of my way to avoid it. I go out of my way to avoid it. Mara, Nike, like I said, Carte Blanche and 702. After I ignore both places, I wanted to write into special assignment, but I was like, wait, nothing's gonna give. They are intricately woven. There's nowhere you can go. Nowhere. I was done dirty, and for me it was like, but my evidence is stark, it is clear, it is clear more. And I thought news networks would just jump on it. I thought people who are just taking up people's causes would just jump on it, and when they didn't, I learned the hard way. Legal aid board. I went over there because I was unemployed. So I frankly passed the means test, lack thereof, to qualify for a pro bono lawyer. I went there the one day, but okay, sharp. We've lost your case. The next day, go downtown Joburg. But we're still on it. No one ever called me. Ya sweep under the carpet. Ya lahlwa dog. Corruption. That's when I was like, yo, where there was a BMW, the stickers other sponsoring companies. Your sponsor, corporates are gonna take up my cause. That's my future. That's why I get it. And business death rituals from a distance. Eliminate and killing you and once. But you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna succeed. You know why? Because you wanna just. And Mudimo has raised me up for trainer. And for such a time as this, the professor, South Africa, may the Lord protect you, Hey, I was scared for you, we're nervous. And then she did a video responding and saying, I'm alive. If at all I get killed, who killed me. But something tells me that God still wants me to be here a little bit longer. And after she shared that video, I prayed. Because me, I stand in the gap and people, it works. I stood in the gap. I was like, I'm not lukewarm. So for those reasons, I don't even think it is necessary. Because her story, what she has gone through, what she has endured to this date, evidences that God already has taken up a cause for her already. We am protect no yet. I did a video speaking about father to the fatherless in one of my last videos, and frankly I think it is the one preceding this very video. And there I was speaking about how it is that even before you give your life to the Lord, evidence is all over, just littered across impilo yakho. Abonisayo ukuthi dala ubiziwe, and God protect her before umutse. So upon listening to case yakhe the daughter attempted rape. When I listened to the story and heard that indodakazi yakhe futhi survived attempted murder, where it is that poison never killed her, she made it, she lived, she's still living to tell the story today. Basically all of the feats of survival, the one that, and then she collected all the stools and she collected the vomit and whatnot and tested it, and the stuff that was in the food was in the poison, was in her stools and in her vomit. So she was not made so bereft that she would likely even throw away the case. The way the way they've been essentially all the things that they survived to this date, to a point of publicly sharing. It shows me, it's enough for me, it evidences a providential divine hand. In the way that before and it was obviously before. So while I prayed for her and stood in the gap for her, but the family, I realized that tapelo ya was not so much too little, too late, mara is not the thing. The tapelo tsa rona Mudimo already has already taken up that course with carefulness, because case important. It is a whistleblowing by somebody on the resources here in this nation. All one time. And if at all, it was not through someone onang wealth, onang an ability and influence and education, clout of sorts. With similar cases. A very most diabolical satanic deep state. If none the resources, I was gonna fight and high. Hold a hostage, threatened. Into that don't make no kind of sense. You will remember how with the professor, they tried to offer her imoto on Sunday. I have a surprise for you. They tried to offer her any imoto and she was like, I don't like surprises. And for her it was like, you're like corrupt. Stop trying to water me down. Nami. They tried to offer me, I told you, my story. Even before the expose of the lady, I shared somewhat of my story. It was actually eerie how I decided to share a portion of my story just before a public exposure of Standard Bank. How it is that they said that I resigned. Somewhere along the way in the arbitration that they tried to offer me a deal in the middle. Offer 3 months salary, they were showing basically it was somewhat a tacit admission of guilt by mere virtue of trying to shut me up because some other alternative settlement. And when then I rejected that alternative settlement, that's when Njefela Gwashuba ya changa tazo kasebe le any, for crying out loud. Justice still to this day. Abantu bakhona ngifila ngathi barobala ne bakhona batsoga say bagodisitse bana a whole entire 11 going on 12 years. Abantwana babo baphumile high school sebaya le varsity kaje. When this case started, they were in primary school. Bagodisitse bana. Babang bathotse divorce from banna bateng. Maybe abanye bashonile asazi ukuthi kwenzakalani. Kodwa abantu that put me in this position, abanye babile nabantwana baba pregnant babahudisa kidi teenagers kidi toddler kaje sonke lesikhathi sindlile umfazi still is without justice uhlezi ejardini doing nothing kabophelo bahayi. Barriers to entry lamkutwa. Barriers. This year is God's providence. The order of events, a sequence of events are happening because that's what God ordered. Le all over this thing. Happen le all over. Kisia the professor. All over. It's all over. And mina Eskarab get to a point where nyahamba la emzansi and it's not my choice ukahamba. It's not my decision. It is my choice. I want to go there. God, a decision yakhona yayenza God long before ngazi ukuthi I would have to leave. Khale ke bontsho di flaga tsa America ku ditorong. Khale ke bontsho mamela since ne ke live very much deeply entrenched in patriotism for South Africa. Ke bontsho ke lo phela kwa go gakala. Ke sa I grew up ke rata South Africa so much that I thoroughly said in myself, overseas I will always travel. Because I love South Africa. I have been given an aversion for this nation because of corruption and witchcraft, sorcery and corruption, the bankruptcy that I've been made to walk in. I had a future, and the nation ripped it up from underneath my feet. And there's the very people that are of my skin tone that have done this to me, that has given me a very bad taste in my mouth for South Africa, to a point where I can't even watch South African entertainment. I just well up with a deep nostalgia.